may or may not be here on any given Sunday at Faith Bible Church. So, is our pre-service coffee time more welcoming than this? You see, now we don't have that many people having coffee before church, but when you walk into our vestibule or our lobby on any given Sunday, we've got, thankfully, because of great people that came beforehand, we've got a nice little setup. One of the people that I invited here about a year ago, she goes to a Catholic church. One of the biggest things she kept talking about was, man, when we go to Catholic churches, like they kind of like ring the bell. Mass is about ready to start, and everybody floods in. And as soon as communion's over, everybody's running out. She goes, we don't have anybody like setting up coffee and cake, and we don't have like people out in the lobby chit-chatting and talking to each other. So that can be a good thing. Unless you happen to walk in when everybody is talking to their friends, their brethren, and we're not being sensitive to someone new is there. Now, here's the other thing. Where are the majority of visitors coming from? Are they believers or unbelievers? The majority of visitors are believers. In today's day and age, most unbelievers aren't going to darken the door of your church unless they're coming with somebody. So, think about it. A member of our family, of our body, could walk in. And there are some people that are in here that are visitors that broke my heart. They didn't mean to, but they said, yeah, the first time I visited, there wasn't a greeter at the door. There wasn't anybody, we kind of walked in, we had to find where the bulletin was and kind of look around and kind of figure out when things started. There really wasn't anybody there. Now, we're fortunate because they were a mature enough Christian when they came and they sat down in the service. They felt like they were being fed and they gave us another try. Have you ever been to this is classic. I just had to laugh when I downloaded this one. Have you ever visited a church and felt like an outsider? It's like you come with your family and you go and you find a spot to sit down and you're all ready to go, and then you find out one of the regulars who comes in a little bit later and is like, hey, welcome to church, but you're sitting in our spot. I mean, you see this anywhere you go. I can tell you where the majority of you all sit. Chuck, you're always sitting there. Jordan, the Lucy's are always there in the back. And Sheila's always there in the back. Tom and Judy, I mean, it's familiarity, it's comfort, but most of us are sitting where we normally sit, right? So what we need to do is also be sensitive, though, if someone comes that is sitting in that area. Maybe we sit in an empty spot close by, but use that as an opportunity to welcome the guest in a true manner, not like, hey, where's my spot? Do our visitors feel familiar and comfortable with how we do our praise and worship? Every church is a little bit different. So, someone who comes new that's completely unescorted or hasn't met anybody might come in and they just don't, I've been to a lot of churches. Not a whole lot of them have a great commission and congregational moment. That can be uncomfortable for some folks. There's somebody sitting here right now, and we'll put them there on the spot. They were people that I invited to come when we saw them at the fair in January. I was ill one of the Sundays in January and felt really bad under the weather. And it just happened to be that was the Sunday that these folks came. Now, they were believers. It also was a Sunday that Denny couldn't be here. So our trio of wonderful ladies were up front singing. And we found out afterwards, because at least they were brave enough and strong enough in their faith to ask the question, finding out about the church. So, are you guys one of those churches that don't believe in instruments? That everything the joyful noise of the Lord has to be made a cappella? Because I guess there's some churches that are out there like that. But because they just happened to catch us on a Sunday where we didn't have our musicians, today we were blessed. We had 3 musicians and 3 singers and filled this sanctuary with holy praise. But on that Sunday, they caught us without anybody there, so there was a perception. I'm so glad that they asked, because as those of you that are in business will know that there are sometimes where it's the customers that leave that never tell you why they left or what the problem is. But the fact that they asked gave me an opportunity, and so now I'm going to put them on the spot. Not only to say, no, we absolutely believe in music, and there's a lot of other things we believe. If there's something that we're missing at our church, it's not necessarily that we don't want it. It's just because we haven't had somebody step forward with that gifting to do it. But we found out we're going to be short-handed with music on Resurrection Sunday. So if you've got someone from your church that would like to help us with praise and worship on Resurrection Sunday, we would be open to that. So as a result of that whole dialogue, we discovered that Bobby and Brenda have gifts and talents, and we tapped into them right away and got them involved, and they did a great sunrise service for us. And Jason, we had a chance to talk with him and said, hey, he leads some praise and worship at the church that he used to go to that unfortunately had to dissolve, but as a result of the questions from his mother, he said, you know what? Denny's not going to be there on Resurrection Sunday. And boy, if there's ever a Sunday where you might have guests and you really want to have good singing. So please tell Jason if he would like to lead our praise and worship, the stage is his. And it all came together. It was great. But think about the misperceptions of not communing and connecting. So, of course, here, the little joke is that we've got the visitor that comes for the first time to church. She's not really familiar with how the church is laid out or what's doing, so she sees up there where they've got the numbers of the hymns being done, and she's looking at her bulletin. She goes, oh wow, on my very first Sunday, I won the lottery. I have the same numbers in my bulletin as they have up on the wall. So it just illustrates a little bit about how even with other believers, because of the differences and the nuances, that we can sometimes have perceptions that are not explained that may or may not have a positive impact. So, as we move on, can we improve our system for welcoming and connecting visitors to our body? I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, and this is just things, food for thought. Because just as I shared a couple other times before that if you've got a ministry on your heart, we've had some people that have stepped forward, I'm just going to share with you some things. We do some things well, we do some things not so well, and there's some things that we could do very well with just saying, wow, I never thought about connecting that. But as I read a little bit about church growth, and Wilbur shared with me some things that he's observed over time. Number one is, not all churches have visitor parking spaces. Hey, we get a plus for that. We have some visitor parking spaces right up front. You know what the cool thing would be is, since they're right up front, is if we had our greeters actually paying attention if somebody pulls into a visitor spot. Either A, you can say, Harry, what are you doing parking in a visitor spot? That's for the visitors. No, I'm just kidding. But in theory, the visitors are parking in a visitor spot, so we know they're coming. And so it's kind of like, get your game face on. We've got some visitors, and if we know statistically they're probably a believer, we already have a connection. So let's put some joy on our face. Let's welcome them to our church. Make them feel welcome from the beginning. Now, I know that our numbers are low, but one of the things as I was reading through some of these things is that maybe we're not staffing our doors with enough greeters. Because of some of the things that the greeters can be doing, maybe instead of one per door, if we had two per door, because that way one person can stay in place as people are coming in, especially the regular members, but that if we do have a visitor, we have a role for the greeter that can immediately greet the visitors. You know, one of the benefits of Faith Bible Church, we're a small church. We pretty much know when a visitor's here because we know most of the familiar faces. So it'd be really easy to smile and say, hey, welcome to Faith Bible Church. Is this your first time here? They say, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, well, welcome, come on. And immediately bring them inside. Not just hand them a bulletin and say, go in and get some coffee and cake, but bring them inside. We have a wonderful kiosk or a desk. It would be nice if we could have someone that might be willing to serve at the kiosk to actually sign people in. Believe it or not, after going through this, I did check. We do have a guest register. How many of us that when we're greeting actually are recognizing a new person that's coming to visit, giving them a really nice friendly visit, and then actually asking them to sign in on the register? And then once they get signed in on the register, that the greeter could then have some folks that are in our church. We've got some really outgoing folks that are out there in the vestibule. If we pre-identified a handful of people that said, hey, when we have visitors, would you guys serve as our host or our hospitality team? So that when a guest comes in, once they're signed in, that greeter then would bring them right up and say, hello, hello, this is Bill and Sue. This is Bobby and Brenda. I would like to connect you all. And so immediately they're being introduced, not only to the greeter, the person who's signing them in at the front desk, but also now being connected, preferably with a couple or with a host. Maybe it's just one person, one-to-one. Maybe it's couple-to-couple. But somebody that may have something similar to that. If Jason and his wife are coming in with their kids, hopefully if I'm hanging out with the boys or something like that, we're pretty much like the only kids here. So we would at least try to connect, some younger folks with younger folks. But look for some similarities. We all have a tendency to be attracted to those people that are similar to us. Then the greeter can also go back and if we have over here by the desk, some 3x5 cards. They signed in, so we get a chance to see their name. Write their names down on a couple of 3x5 cards, and then as the service starts and you see where they go sit, hand the cards to a couple of the people that are sitting close by. You can do that inconspicuously. But hopefully, when I introduced them to Bobby and Brenda said, well, do you have someone that you know here that you're sitting with? They say, well, no, this is our first time. I said, well, you can come sit with us. So you've now made them feel welcome and actually have them sitting there thinking, hey, now we know somebody that knows whether we won the lottery or not. They can explain some of this stuff when they're sitting. And then while that's happening, maybe a few other folks get these cards with the names on it, so that when somebody like me or Harry up front says, let's take a moment to greet everybody. We haven't done that in a while. Or welcome. Somebody can come up and say, hi, are you Bill and Sue? And they might be like, hey, this is like Cheers. Everyone knows our name. We laugh about that, but it's important. Think about the number of times in Scripture where names are emphasized. I'll get back to that a little bit later. But it's one thing to say, hi, how are you? And let that name go in one ear and out the other. And I've learned to not be too proud because it is important. And there are times where maybe I've got my scatterbrain on something else and I don't remember the name. To not be too proud to say, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. But ask it again. Because it's important when you meet someone out in the world or even here in church to show them that it was important enough for you to know their name. So we can use the greeters to put down some names, and then we can use our greeting time. Whether we do it in the beginning of church, if we don't have, because we don't always do it, a greeting time in the beginning of church, hey, take a moment to say hi to those. At the end of church, I can look around the room pretty quick and see who the visitors are. Those of us that are members, we should be looking so that when church is over at the end of the benediction, boom, we're going to get up and we're going to go over and introduce ourselves and welcome them there. The key is that a first-time visitor, went too far. First-time visitors, if we do it right, should be able to meet at least 5 people that are regular attendees to the church. Now, this is a stretch. But if it's possible, it'd be great to do it. If it's not, that's okay. But in some cases, you hit it off with the visitors, the guests. Sometimes, hey, you know such and such, or you're from such and such, or I'm from such and such. But wouldn't it be nice to say, hey, do you all have plans for lunch? Most people after church go out to lunch. Maybe they don't have plans. Say, hey, we're going to go to Cracker Barrel up the street, or we're going to go wherever, to Peaches. Invite them to come along. If you can pay for it, that's even a bigger bonus. But if you can't, that's okay. Most people aren't going to expect that, but the key is that you've invited them for some breaking of bread, just like the early church. We call the people that, like I used as the example with Brenda and Bobby, the hosts. Again, the hosts, they sit with them, and then maybe because they got their name and maybe they went to lunch with them later on in the week, place a little phone call to them. Say, hey, how's it going? Just checking in on you. Maybe even drop by if there's time and they live close enough. You might even be able to arrange for just a quick little visit and drop off some baked goods. But the key is that follow-up is also an opportunity to say, boy, we'd sure love to see you at church again next Sunday. So we're not just letting people leave the door rolling the dice with a chance whether they may or may not come back. We not only will we welcome them when they're here, but when they leave, that we haven't forgotten them once they've walked out of the door, that we're going to still reach out. And then the next week, the hosts, hopefully because they made contact, are seeking them out when they show up. If they didn't make contact, but we get fortunate enough that the good Lord prompted them to come back, the hosts see them, please make a beeline directly to, hey, it's great to see you again. Hopefully remembering their name because we had 3x5 cards. If the host did have an opportunity to get some confirmation, yeah, we'll be there again next Sunday, then they could actually write down, again, the names on some 3x5 cards so that when they get there, they can hand them to a few people and say, remember those people that sat with us last Sunday? Just a reminder, here's their names. When they come in, be sure to say hi to them. The key is if we just do some of these simple little things and we make the effort. And it's not a gimmick. The key is some of us learn by hearing, some learn by seeing, and some learn by doing. Just as George said when he was up here praying. The fact that either I'm writing it down or I'm reading it out loud or whatever, it's reinforcing and helping my memory so that there's familiarity. Because again, knowing people by their name. Over the course of the first month, those people that were visitors hopefully continue to come. Now they're being made to be welcome and maybe on their path to becoming new members, and that they know at least 20 people in our church. They're no longer strangers. To the visitors, what we've done is we've established a reputation as being a friendly church. After a month, maybe it's time then to assign another couple or another person to say, hey, why don't you start getting involved in their life a little bit? This then allows for, again, a little bit more intimacy, learning where they are spiritually, an opportunity maybe to connect with them, pray for them, witness to them if they need it, because sometimes maybe not everyone in the family will be churched or saved, or in some cases just discipling them, which is what we're supposed to be all about. Also, now as the familiarity comes along, the new host couple can take the opportunity to invite maybe a few of the other members of the church and these folks over to their house for some dessert, some coffee and cake or something like that. But they're making friends, they're building relationships and familiarity. Not only is this helpful in turning our visitors into members, but it also helps our members to learn, polish, and improve their discipleship and mentoring skills in a non-confrontational way. One-on-one is a beautiful thing because people are forgiving, you can make mistakes, but it's just two people that love and care about each other genuinely, sharing something that is important to all of us, our Creator. So again, let me emphasize, the cards have to do with remembering names. From the beginning, whenever the Lord revealed himself. Who is it that I'm talking? I am. You heard Jesus, actually the Lord throughout the Old Testament, when he had a significant conversion or impact on a life. Abram becomes Abraham. Sarai becomes Sarah. Jacob becomes Israel. Simon becomes Peter. What's interesting, we just talked about this not too long ago. After Peter denied Christ 3 times before the cock crowed, read the passage right after that. He called him Simon again, until after the 3rd time when he confessed his allegiance and loyalty again. Then he started calling him Peter again. Names are important. It is, to most of us, the most important word in the English language is hearing your first name. So that's why that's important. Again, not a gimmick, but it's a sign of intimacy and that you cared enough to know somebody by their name. Hey, if Cheers can do it, our church can do it, right? All right, so, kind of in closing. If our purpose is to glorify God by making and maturing disciples for Jesus Christ, then today's message we focused on the making them disciples. But what can we do better to mature as disciples? That's all of us. So that's a topic for another teaching. We're running a little bit over time, and I apologize for that. But here's some things that just for us to review on our own. What are we doing to help ourselves mature as disciples and being connected in the body of Christ? Whether it's our own personal, individual daily devotions, getting in the Word, attending prayer meetings, Sunday school, Bible studies, throughout the week, in the morning or in the evening. Are you involved in some type of mentorship? Are you being mentored or discipled by someone who is more mature in the faith? And are you passing that on? I've seen some very successful ministries where it goes one step up and one step down. That the believer is being discipled and mentored by a very mature believer, but then they're also taking that opportunity to someone who they're witnessing to. And so that's how we're building these strong, solid bodies, if you will. Small groups and home fellowships, again, a page right out of the early church in the New Testament. They were meeting, breaking bread from house to house. Christian education seminars. There's a lot of good ones here in our local community, whether it's, and even here within our church, whether it's going to the Truth Project, or some of you have attended Dr. Dale Burrows. She does the Abundant Christian Life, which is a great 1.5 day, or maybe you're involved in your own personal ministry, which those of you that are doing that, I know that you know that preparing to be the teacher makes you the better student. The things that I learn when I pray about a lesson or what God wants me to teach, and the things that He reveals to me so that I can then share it with you, like I said, it hit me like a ton of bricks. After Pentecost, they went out to witness, and the 3,000 that got saved, those were all people from the four corners of the known world that were all visiting Jerusalem, the holy city. So if we just take a page out of how they dealt with the visitors there in their city, we can apply some of that to how we deal with visitors to our church. So, we all have the same Father. As George said, and we did talk ahead of time, that makes us family. Let's make an effort to act like it. In my Father's house are many mansions. I hope yours is right next to mine. God bless you. Barry, do you want to...